doing what you love. I know that sounds really cliche, but for a lot of us, either we didn't know what we really loved from the beginning, or we weren't supported in what we really loved. And I just think that that is the most important thing. And that it can be sort of like a windy road, figuring it out. I started as a psychology major at Columbia University, and I thought that basically everybody in my family was either a psychologist or a social worker or a psychiatrist. And I thought, wow, if everyone's doing that, it must be really the right thing to do. Everyone seems to be happy with their job, so I was a psychologist major. In my senior year, I decided to do some volunteer work on a psych ward with psych patients. So I thought, well, if this is what I'm going to be doing, I may as well really get some exposure and meet lots of different people. About halfway through the year, this is my senior year, I was working with a 16-year-old girl who I was told to play ping pong with, cards, read with, and things were going great. She was like wonderful, and I thought, she doesn't seem stressed out. What happened? So I went and I talked to the caseworker, and she said a year ago she had a baby, and last week she threw that baby out the window. So I quit my job, my volunteer job. I was so blown away because I thought I really could not understand it, and it so upset me that I thought, I just don't think I can be a psychologist if I can't sort of deal with this. Already I was very invested in psychology, right? I was like getting ready to graduate, and I was a psychology major. So I sat down and I thought about like what was it that I really liked about the field, other than everyone in my family was a psychologist. And I realized that I really liked hearing people's stories. I liked listening to what people had to say about their lives. And that there were other careers that I could think about where you also listen to people's stories and shared stories. And while I was in college, I was working as a nanny for a documentary filmmaker, a guy named David Rubin in New York City. And he said, he was telling me, you should really look into film school, or else, get some kind of an apprenticeship as a filmmaker if you're interested in filmmaking and telling stories. And so I applied to NYU, the film program there, and did not get in. And I was very upset because I thought, well, I'm a good student. Why didn't I get in? I applied. Basically, in life, I've pretty much gotten a lot of what I'd set out to do, but I did not get into film school. Of course, I didn't have a portfolio. I had no background experience, but I thought I would get in. So again, this guy that I was working for said, that's not the only way to do it. You can work as an apprentice. So I thought, okay, well, I don't really know how to do that, but I started calling people on the phone. And when you offer your services for free, to go in and basically learn a trade, a lot of people will call you up and say they want you to help them. So I worked as a sound effects editor. I worked as a camera person, as an assistant camera person. I learned some editing. So for like a year and a half, I just went around, and anyone who needed help with something, I helped them. At night, I worked as a waitress because I needed to make money, and my apprenticeship was basically I worked for free. And then after about a year and a half, I started getting paid gigs where people would hire me to work on a film as an assistant to the assistant, or as a location manager or whatever. And then also, at the same time, I found out about certain grants that you could get as a young filmmaker. I started applying for grants because I thought, I'm working on all these other people's films, now I want to work on a film of my own. And so I got a grant. I made my first film, which was about an artist who works at the New York City Department of Sanitation. She does performance art and maintenance art. And
what's maintenance art?
Maintenance art. Maintenance art is basic. Her work with the sanitation workers was documenting how they took care of the city, how they kept the city clean. So an example of maintenance art would be, she took a sanitation truck and she covered it with mirrors. And then she put that truck in a parade. So people at the parade would look at the truck and see themselves and realize that they were a part of this process of sanitation and cleaning up the city. And it's not just, like when I was growing up, we called sanitation workers garbage men. Right? I don't know if anyone calls them garbage men anymore. Maybe people do, but a lot of people don't. And it's because they sort of, they have a little bit more respect now for their work and what they do. And they stood up for themselves at a certain point and said, I don't want to be called garbage men. And her work was largely about that, trying to basically lift them up and try to show people how they were helping to keep the city alive. So that piece, the reason why I'm telling you this, that piece ended up doing very well in film festivals, because nobody had ever seen anything like this woman who did this maintenance art. And it won first prize at the USA Film Festival in the shorts category. And the judge was the president of NYU Film School, a film school that I tried to get into and didn't get in. So all this is to say is that sometimes you can be going along and you think everything's going fine, and then you just take a fork in the road that you're not that happy about, and sometimes that can be a really good thing. And in my case, it ended up saving me a lot of money, because film schools are really expensive. And it worked out okay. Now I have loads of friends who did go to film school, and it was absolutely the perfect thing for them. My friend Trisha Reedy is an editor I work with all the time. She works with Ken Burns. She's one of his editors. She met him in film school, so that was a great thing for her. So I'm not saying don't go to graduate school. I'm just saying that sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes there's another way. So Thomas Friedman is a writer for the New York Times, and in a commencement speech he gave at Yale a few years back, he said, lesson number 1 is that you basically have 2 choices in life. You can be a survivor or a thriver, and the best way to thrive is to do what you love, because if you do what you love, you'll love what you do, and 100% of people who love what they do end up thriving emotionally or financially. I'll tell you, as a documentary filmmaker, I don't thrive financially. I mean, I do okay, but there's not a lot of money in this, unless, of course, you're Ken Burns. But I do feel really, really happy in my work. I love being able to tell stories through film. I love it. And it's changing all the time. The people that I'm working with are changing all the time. It's really interesting, fun work. But we have...
I have a question about that. I feel like that's a turning point in maybe a lot of the adults in the room's lives, and maybe some of yours. Like there a moment where you go from doing what you have to do because you're supposed to do it, because mom makes you, or because your instructor tells you this is the next step to get what you want. And does anyone have does that idea of going from surviving to thriving spark any moments in your life that you want to share? Can we do something really quickly? Everyone stand up. Grab your shoes. Grab your sunglasses if you have them. We're going to open up to a big circle for just a few minutes. And Chloe will be monkey in the middle. She's going to start. No. So from here, guys, let's not make an amoeba-like circle. Liz is trying to figure out that little corner. Let's just fill in the holes. Step around. And move in just a little bit. Make sure you can see everyone. Don't leave anyone out. And then from here, let's take a seat. And we don't have to we're not going to make this the focus of the evening, but that's just a really, sometimes we're doing what we have to do, but then what's that moment when it changes? Lisa, do you have a moment?
I guess I'll find one. I think for me, the moment might be when you try something new. I sort of started out the same way. Most of the people in my family are visual artists or musical artists, and it's kind of like the family business. So I became an artist and very happy as an artist for many years, and educated as an artist. And then I happened to take a class in natural perfumery, and I just fell in love. So now I'm going to switch from visual art to aromatic art.
Yeah, Lofty. My mom, my mom,
You
and my
talk to
dad.
the circle.
My mom and my dad both work in sales with medicine. Also, my grandmother was like a nurse, was also a nurse. So my family has this huge, like medical background, and just for them to say, and I've always wanted to become a recording artist, which is, if you think about it, absolutely nothing like anything in the medical branch. And so when I told my parents, they're like, oh, like, wait, what? And they just looked at me like as if I said I wanted to fight a dragon. And I guess now, like, they've gotten used to it, and they're now helping me out, and they're feeling that I'm a lot better off singing and recording than performing brain surgery on someone.
For me, I think